Yes, Anita was suggesting that we take it in the local language because this is what we're advocating for.
Well, it depends on which local language you would want us to speak, because you should have told me that a long time ago.
That's right. It's okay. We'll just continue. Yes, for this time, and then we'll take it on the next one.
Okay. All right.
Yes. Yes. So yeah, you can continue from where you left off. Thank you.
Yes, where I left off was that you have a set of questions that you would want to ask me, because they sent me a set of questions from 1 to 10.
Yes, and yeah.
And I was asking
okay.
You would not start doing that because you have lost a lot of time. I've been here since morning.
That's right.
I've been home since morning.
We're very sorry. We apologize for that.
Okay.
Okay. One of the questions was, as no discussion on education could be complete without a political conversation, especially with someone like yourself, Honorable, who have been in the Gambia and Africa's political arena for decades, and therefore it is very important that we talk about what you and your colleagues have demonstrated on remarkable commitment, on immense service in shaping political trajectory of the Gambia for over 4 decades. However, during recent concluded PDOIS Congress, you did say that you were stepping down, but you are not retiring. And here we would want you to please clarify for our audience. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, when I said it, I did my clarification, but I can repeat also what I said and expand on it. You see, I was saying that there are many ways of teaching people or sensitizing people. You can write something and teach them. You can teach them in the classroom. That's one form of education. But another form of education, which is for me very positive, is you practice what you say. Not just say things which you would not practice, but you practice exactly what you say. And that is what I was trying to explain to the Congress, that for 40 years, we have been trying to sensitize people, to conscientize people, to help people to understand what politics in fact is about. What are their fundamental rights as citizens? What are their responsibilities as citizens? You can teach this in the classroom, but you can also teach it by practicing. So what we did, or what I did, on the 24th of last month, was to indicate that for 40 years I have been working in this country. For 40 years I have been trying to make people understand what is the essence of politics, why we are out in the Gambia in the first place, why we have formed a political party. And many people have come into that political party. They have been learning a lot of things from us. So I said it is now time for me to calm down and now try to nurture and tender the seeds that we have sown, and they have now germinated and they are growing. We must take responsibility to protect them, to make sure that they grow in the right direction. In other words, I'm speaking metaphorically. What I'm saying that all the people we have been working, young people we have been working with, they have learned a lot of things. They are now assuming responsibility to run the party. Now it is now our turn now to guide them, to see what we have been telling them, whether they understand it or they have not understood it. And it is our responsibility to help them to practice what they have learned and to help them understand the way things are to be done. So that is now the responsibility I am assuming as a member of PDOIS. And that's why I'm not saying, people have a very wrong notion about politics in this country. They talk about age. What age? What age? You want to tell me that an old person whose mental faculties are intact, physically he is able, he should fold his hands when his house is on fire? Is that what people are implying by saying that old people should, and who is old? What is old?
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Definitely.
So my new responsibility is to help guide the process of the work of the party and to help reinforce the sensitization that begun since 1986.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes. Yes. Thank you very much, Honorable. So, having said that, what is next for Honorable Sidia? What plans do you have in regards to, yeah?
Well, I have just
Not retiring.
outlined
What would you be bringing to the party?
I'll repeat some of the things I have just said. My responsibility now is to help guide and to be sure that the seeds that we have sown and have germinated grow effectively and in the right direction. And that's the militants and activists that we have working with. And those who have now assumed responsibility of running the party, we must take responsibility now to help them guide the way they are going and to make sure that the party does not slip off its path to transformation of the society. That's the
Yes, thank you. That's right. Thank you. Your educational background is linguistic. Can you please tell the audience what a linguist is and why linguistics is important?
Well, okay, I'll tell you. I think this is very simple and everybody understands. You just want me to talk. You see, contrary to what people think when you say linguists here in the Gambia, they think it is somebody who speaks many languages. No, it is not.
Right.
There is another way of saying that when you say a polyglot is somebody who speaks many languages. But linguistics is a science of language. And anybody who studies that science and qualifies is called a linguist. In other words, linguist is to language as a doctor is to human body.
Right.
Linguist is capable of dealing with any language in the world. In other words, I can deal with any language in the world, even though I may not speak Chinese or Japanese or whatever language. As a trained linguist, I can deal with all these languages, particularly the ones in which I was born. That's Gambia, Wolof, Mandinka, Fula. My mother is Fula, and my father is Mandinka. And I've been living with Wolofs and Sarahules all over this country. So none of these languages sent to me. And then with added advantage that I have studied this language scientifically. Because I was writing my doctoral thesis on Soninke, which is Sarahule, which is not my father tongue or my mother tongue. So that's what linguistics is about. Scientific study of languages. And a person who does that is called a linguist.
On the linguistic. Yes. Thank you very much for that clarification. I believe we have learned that if we haven't, if we didn't know what exactly it was before. Thank you. So, that one is though. According to UNESCO's 2022 country profile of the Gambia, the literacy rate in the Gambia for people ages between 15 and above was 58.1%. Now, why do you think the literacy rate is still very low in the Gambia, considering that literacy is the foundation on which humanity is built? You know, productive lives, individuals and communities, and as nations. Why do you think we have it this low?
Thank you very much for that wonderful thing you have just said. That's exactly the fact. The literacy rate is low because, one, we are using a language which is alien to all of us, and we are using a language that who's to teach, which is more expensive than for us to teach our own languages, and therefore the literacy rate is low. And then when my father sent me to school, and by the way, my village is one of the biggest villages in Woolly East. And when my father sent me to school, the whole village elders came to him to beg that he should withdraw me from school because I was going to be a Catholic or whatever they call a non-believer. But my father had a great foresight. He refused. He didn't listen to me. Because he told me that your age and my age are going to be totally different. In your age, if you are your generation, if you are not educated, if you are not literate, you will suffer. And I want to render you literate to become useful to humanity. That's exactly what he said. He didn't say to be useful to yourself. He said to be useful to humanity and to be useful to yourself. That was the basis on which my father said. That's right. So in other words, people didn't see Western, as they call it, Western education as anything to go by, because they associated with Christianity, they associated ungodliness, they associated with all anything negative that you would think of. Of course, there are negative things about it, but that was a misconception. The negative things about it, we know them. One great negative thing about it is that it suppresses the growth and education in your own language. That is the most negative thing about it. So, under the First Republic, there was an attempt to teach all these languages and for adult literacy education in all these languages. And there were regional education directorates in all these regions under the First Republic. And they were teaching Mandinka, Fula, Sahule, Jura, Sere, all these languages were being taught. But it didn't go because the government then didn't see it as a necessity, that this was fundamentally the responsibility of the government without even relying on anybody outside this country to conduct education, particularly adult education, in our own language and financed by our own efforts. Because what is primary to your existence cannot be left to the care of those who are outside. And that was the big mistake, because these classes were funded by outside donors. And when donor funding ended, the project died. And it died for so many years before it took off again. And when it took off again, there was big financing for it. But then it was not being conducted in the way it should have been conducted. And eventually it collapsed again. And it is still collapsed. It is no longer working. Our government is not involved in conducting adult literacy in this country. And that was one of the reasons why in 1997, when I became an MP for the first time, even before we were giving salary, we were just giving allowances, I started a adult literacy program for women in Woolly. And it was financed by my meager means of income at the time. By virtue of my own training, I trained the facilitators. I developed materials myself, but then printing was a big problem. But fortunately, the then director of adult literacy helped me and printed the first two manuals that I prepared, one for language, one for numeracy. So that's how I got it. I wanted to prove to people that this is possible. It is possible to do it, and it was easier for people to become literate in their own languages at low cost than English. But then, of course, it requires a lot of money, because you have to, facilitators are not going to do the job free. And of course, materials have to be very expensive and all those things. Although it is not completely dead, but it's weak at this moment. Yes.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. So, as a renowned linguist, you have been calling for introduction of national language in education system and public institutions and administrations in the Gambia for many years. Can you tell the audience why this is so important?
You know,
I know you have spoken a little about it, but if you could elaborate a little bit more.
you know, I always feel funny, and I feel we all feel funny when we ask ourselves such a question, because a human being is asking himself or herself a question whether or not I should teach my language. It is very funny. Who on earth is asking that question other than people in Africa? We are the only people among the human race. And let me put this very clearly. Human race, we were the first people on earth. Black people were the first people on earth. Scientifically, this has been agreed by all over the world. So if that is the truth, why are we now back behind everybody in development in the world, particularly in terms of education? Why? Because when we started, we were ahead of many. And this is not a flattery. This is a scientific truth that when we started, we were ahead of many in the world. We were ahead of many in the world, and therefore, when they saw that we were going too fast for them to their detriment, as they put it, they decided to interrupt us.
Maybe they are using the phone. Someone call the phone.
When they saw that we were going too fast ahead of everybody.
Wow, Suma Her Majesty, the Royal Highness, Tidos, Agbajan Aisa.
Are you listening?
Tidos, mom, since from Excel, man could not know you before. Why for now? Never for busy one or this.
Are you listening?
Okay. Glad to be here and glad to hear from him.
Yeah.
Honorable Aisha, it's Aisha here. I'm saying hello. Aisha from Ohio, Athens.
Okay, Aisha, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, I'm fine. I'm trying to be fine. Difficult to go, but I'm trying to be fine.
Yes, welcome back.
Yes, can we?
Are you guys okay now?
Yes, we are okay, but it's like we are having two types of conversations at the same time.
No, sorry, we didn't realize that you came back when you left. So we apologize for that. We were just trying to welcome the guests on the panel. So yes, you can continue from where you left off. Otherwise, if you concluded on that question, I would go to the next one.
Yes, go on to the next question.
Because you were talking about how. Okay. Well, the next question says. We did take care of the.
Sorry. Because you political.
Can you hear me?
There is a political dimension to your question. Let me address that. You see, language is a.
Okay, go ahead.
Language is a very serious political issue on the African continent. And many intellectuals hide behind the fact that there are too many languages in Africa. There are too many languages in each African country. Like small Gambia, we have about 7 or more. But this is not a cause. It is an enrichment. Many languages is not a cause. It is an enrichment. And it is not specific and peculiar to Africa. How many official languages do we have in Switzerland? 3, 4. The fourth one is almost a dead language, Romance language. And how many official languages did we have? At one time, when I was in my university in Grenoble, my professor conducted a study in Hungary. And he discovered that there were, at that time, 14 official languages regionally, according to their regional importance. So this multilingualism is not unique to Africa. It is in many other countries, but it is not a deterrent to development, which intellectuals hide behind that. To justify the use of foreign language, they say foreign languages are unifying languages. Which people are they unifying? Those who have been to school, and which is just an infinitesimal fraction of the population of the Gambia. How many people have been rendered literate in English compared to those who have not been rendered literate at all? How many of them? Over 80% of the population. But that's why language is a political matter. And that is why, although I don't like military regimes, but the regime in Somalia, which came into being in 1969, I like it very much. Because Siad Barre, by 1972, he gave an ultimatum to the whole administration of Somalia. And there were 3 official languages in Somalia. And there are over 100 languages in Somalia. But there was one locally, which is spoken by 98% of the population, which is Somali itself. The ultimatum was that everybody had to learn whatever position you occupied in the administration. You had to begin to learn Somali, giving a period, and if you don't, you lose your position. By 1976, Somali became the only language of instruction from ECD to university level. You go there to all the scientific works are in Somali language. It is not a problem. And you go to Rwanda, which started just 2 years ago. Rwanda has a main language, which is Kinyarwanda, which is related to Swahili. And since they know that Swahili has been a written language for a long time, and Kinyarwanda is just a dialect of Swahili, more or less, they decided to adopt Swahili as the official language. But before they had French, and from French they went to English, and from English they decided now we will go African. They adopted Swahili as their official language. And they are moving. China was considered to be the sleeping giant of the world in the 1930s. But today China is dominating everybody in the world, and they are using the Chinese language. They have developed the atomic bomb, the hydrogen bomb, all the destructive weapons you can imagine in the world. They have developed them. And Chinese satellite is hanging up in space for now 14 years with scientists doing their research there. That is knowledge produced in Chinese. So it is all fake, and intellectually curious to say that African languages cannot be used to do anything. This is ridiculous. But the problem is politically, if Gambia today decide to adopt Wolof as our national language, all of you would be rendered illiterate, all of you. I'm sorry to say it, all of you would become illiterate. And those who have been going to adult research classes in Wolof will become your literate persons. So you would lose your positions. And the fact that foreign languages give us this position of privilege. You can only have access to employment if you know how to read and write in English, how to read and write in French, how to read and write. You can only be a president in this Gambia, even though the constitution says we are all equal, but you can only become a president if you can read and write. Can you imagine this ridiculous nonsense? Unless you speak English, you cannot be a president of your country. And nobody questions all this. We are all happy because we are the ones who are enjoying the stupid privilege of being employed as minister, as clerk, as secretary, as this, director. How many people are we negating? How many intellectuals are we negating in our society? We all went through tremendous difficulty to learn English because English is rooted in culture. Learning a language whose culture you have no knowledge about is the most difficult thing you can go through. We all went through that, and we are still allowing our children to go the same route. The same difficulties we went through, we are allowing our children to go. That is why education is poor, is bad quality in this country. And English is always the first casualty in all the examinations, even though it is called the so-called official language. Only language of scholarship. The only language of scholarship in this country is English. An insult for an independent country. African intellectuals have proven beyond doubt that our languages are perhaps even richer than English than French. Some of you who have read Santa Job, if you have not, please start reading Santa Job, because he has proven beyond doubt that Wolof is even richer than French. When he translated Einstein's theory of relativity, he said sometimes he will find 4 Wolof words for 1 French word. 4 Wolof words for 1 French word. Which is richer, Wolof or French? Wolof, of course. And many other things. And this writing that we are talking about, if you are interested, you have to read. The writing in the world probably started in Africa, not anywhere else. Writing started here in Africa, in Nubia. And all these big scholars, big philosophers who you revere in the world, in Greece, Plato, Aristotle, and their like, where have they learned? Where did they have their last lessons in philosophy and mathematics? In Egypt. And Egypt is not an Arab country, it's a black country. Egypt is not an Arab country, it's a black country invaded by Arabs. Just as much as Arabs destroyed the University of Timbuktu in 1851, university that was existing even before 13th century. Even before the English thought of building Cambridge or Oxford University, they had a university in Africa. But they came and destroyed all this to deter, to keep us at bay, so that they will become tools for them, for their development. Human resource wise, material resource wise, this is what has happened, and it's still happening in independent Africa. And we intellectuals are not questioning this. We intellectuals are doing nothing to put an end to this ridiculous situation. This is the problem. That is our challenge.
That was going to be the next question. In fact, I was going to ask, what are the successes or the challenges that we have so far, in introducing this to our curriculum?
Well, the challenges are I started teaching national languages in the formal system when I came back from university in 1979. And the government then chose 3 languages, Wolof, Fula, and Mandinka. These were the 3 languages that we were experimenting. And we had 9 schools across the country, 3 for each of the languages. But what was the problem? Even though the government itself had a language policy, and it was UNESCO who built the Curriculum Development Center and included the teaching of national languages. But unfortunately, they did not have anybody of my training at the time when the center was established in 1975. And nothing was done on national languages until when I came towards the end of 1978. And by 79, I was able to, with my team, to design a writing system for these 3 languages. And we developed learning materials in the 3 languages, but tell me, you know what happened? They refused to print our materials, even though they were the ones who asked us to have experimental classes. All the first materials for the children for the first 2 years were all handwritten. Because when I came, I was so enthusiastic, I was so committed to the development of national languages that I didn't care. We wrote everything by hand for 2 years. But we even had difficulty to go and monitor our classes using transport. Of course, there were transports in the center, but they prefer to use the transport than to allow us to go and monitor our classes. For 2 years, we were producing materials by hand. How could we have continued to produce materials by hand? It's that sensible. And that's why by 1980, when I saw that the whole thing was not serious, I took my annual leave.
Yes.
I took my annual leave and went back to London, where I was giving an international job before coming. I rejected it. And that was a big, big project, because it was a research project on all the languages of Africa, including Arabic. and to design a writing system for all those languages. That was my part of the research program. So I went there and I refused to come back. They dismissed me. But at the end of the project, I came back 1982 to collect data and go and do my doctoral thesis. Now they came again, the people came, begged me, go back to curriculum development. I went there and the same situation prevailed. Then I asked them to give me, that was 1983, I took leave suddenly without pay to go and do my doctorate in France. 83, 84, 85, I came back again and the same situation prevailed. By 1986, I said my conscience could not allow me to continue to work in the Curriculum Development Center, giving a false impression to the Gambian population that I was doing something when I was not. Not that because I cannot or I was refusing to do it, but because government didn't want me to do it. So I resigned. And then I joined my two colleagues. We created the party that we are now running.
That's right. Thank you very much, Honorable. I think it is very clear. And when you say, give it to me, thank you. So this cannot be separated from culture. How can this help in decolonizing the mind and cultural preservation as well, in any other benefits to the country?
You know, language is the collective memory of a community. Language is the depository of your culture. Language is everything. Language defines you as a human being, different from other human beings. So if you negate that, it means that you are negating your humanity. And that is precisely what is happening in Africa. 60 years of independence, we have still not seen the ill that is affecting and marring Africa's development. The fact that we continue to use a tool which is alien to us, which separates us from the vast majority of people in our country. Can you imagine people who are representing the populace in the parliament? I've said this over and over. We go there and we speak English. We are representing more than 80% of the population. And they don't understand what we are saying. They cannot participate in what we are saying. They cannot argue and say you are not representing us because they don't understand what we are saying. And then we say this is a democracy. This is spurious. This is a deception. And I once told the whole of them in parliament, all the ministers were there, including the vice president, then Mr. Dabo. I stood up and then it was so funny to me. Everybody was speaking English and bad English too. I always say this, we speak English, bad English too, we speak English. I said, don't we think we are deceiving ourselves? We are speaking English to each other here. And we are representing people who don't even understand a word of what we are saying. It is not deception. Do you call this democracy or deception? And then the vice president said, you are the one, you are the one who are wasting our time because this is your area. But it is my area, but I know if I take a bill to the National Assembly to say that we should now be speaking national languages in Parliament, it is there in the law. Constitution, I think Section 135 is saying that we can use our languages, but we have to make a law. Can you imagine? The 2020 draft is much better because it did not say make a law. It said from hence you will be using national languages. That is good. But that's not the situation. So it means that we are the ones who are perpetuating the colonization, linguistic colonization of our minds. And it is time that we change that. Because unless we change that, we will not have an education that is what we know. Yes, we have things, yes, we have this, we have that. But what is fundamentally missing? Those PhD holders, you tell them to speak to you for 10 minutes in the language, in their own language, without using a foreign language, a foreign word. You will 75% of the word they put in their sentence will be foreign language. Only 25 will be their own language. This is a tragedy. So we could have done it. We could have changed it since 1965. But now people are realizing countries are moving, and Gambia is also taking a step like this because this new language policy in education comes into force. Children will be free for the first time. They will be reading in their own languages from ECD to ECD 1, ECD 2, ECD 3, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, and in grade 4, that is the transition. The national language will continue to be taught as subjects, but English will become medium of instruction. This is not completely, but it is a step forward. So that's going to be the new policy. And we are now in the process of reviewing the materials that have been developed in these languages to be taught in ACD up to grade 3. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Well, thank you very much, Honorable. I was not sure if you concluded there, so I was just allowing you some time. Yes, I think we would now allow our panelists to ask a few questions if they have, because we only have a couple more questions to go. But because we've taken so much of your time, we will just allow them to ask just a couple of questions each.
That's
before
okay.
we can move forward.
I'm listening.
Hello, everybody. I greet you all. Uncle Sidia, nge kondom bake.
Okay. Nimba, Jumalo mu.
Matida. I'm sure you don't know me, but I'm part of PDOIS. Have always been, and to be honest, I am so happy to be part of this party. It's always been a part of me from childhood until today, and just to know that at this moment in my life, I am formally connected. It brings me a lot of joy. For me, this is not even about politics, to be honest. This is an area in my life that I want to focus more on because it deals with my development personally and career-wise as well. Because PDOIS, I see you guys as visionaries, revolutionaries, and pioneers. So this is a fellowship for me, and it's mentorship for me, and that's just how I have taken it. I don't care if PDOIS gets 1 vote. Even if it gets half vote, I die here. That's it, period.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, that is well said. And I'm proud of you. And I think we need many people like that for this country to be changed completely now. We need people to have that frame of mind to be able to work for the transformation of this country. It is overdue. People are suffering in terms of education. People are suffering in terms of unemployment. You go to university, you graduate, and it takes you years before you can get employment, or no employment at all. And this is not development. If things are correct, if things are moving in the correct way, nobody needs to write an application in the country if the country is properly organized. Government knows each time the number of people who are leaving university, what qualification they have, and where they are going to work is already fixed. That is development, that is organization. But you go to university, and previously, teachers in the teacher training college were not paying anything. It was free. But now teachers are paying for their training, which means that teachers will be free to choose where they are going to teach. mean that that's why the situation in the teaching situation in the schools is impoverished in the sense that people have a choice to go wherever they want. There is no obligation on anybody anymore to go to teach anywhere. When I graduated from college, it was a totally different situation. It was a rule then that you would not be teaching in the school where situated in the village where you were born. But I forced them to send me to Sutukoba school because nobody wanted to go there. They said there were no amenities there. Me, I was born there. My amenities were there, so I went there. They didn't want me to go. They even chose a team of education officers to come and interview me. They called it why I wanted to go there. I explained, and eventually I went there. So the same type of situation still prevails in this country. There are people who don't want to go and work anywhere in the Gambia other than here, over the Greater Banjul area. All this is linked to what I have been talking about. Anyway, thank you very much for that. And I think I have an idea as to who you are.
Very good. Yes, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Yes, and Tidosi, thank you very much for saying that, because that's definitely the belief that every Gambian should have. You know, because if you want to join a political party and you're not believing in what you joined, then definitely you might as well just be
Absolutely
there and do nothing.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, you're part of something, you're in it for good. It doesn't matter the numbers. Of course, when it comes to election, numbers matter, but your belief should matter first.
Absolutely.
What have you been, living as a person? You live in a country and you know what is due to you as a citizen of a country, what you expect of a government that you put in place. And if they're not serving you exactly that, then of course you should know where not to put your vote. And believing in the programs and the policies that you stand by, then of course you should not be lost when election is there. So thank you very much for saying that. I totally relate with you on that. I think these are the PDOIS values, and this is something that we should all really embody and show to the people that we mean what we say and we stand for what we mean. So thank you very much. I would now allow Mr. Chasan. Is it Chasan? I can't see the full name from here.
Yeah, Josani Gambia.
Chasan Gambia. Welcome to Chasan Gambia.
Assalamu alaikum. Uncle Sidia.
Alaikum salam.
Since we're talking about local language and how to incorporate the local languages in our curriculum, so I would therefore inclined to speak Wolof.
Okay.
To ask my question. Uncle Sidia, small understanding Yaganin Dilla Foro, and Nulagiram Dilla Santa. Sata Hawaii, Gambia, politically, and socially, economically, you may name it in every aspect. So, I think history will be very, very generous with you guys. You've done immensely well in that country by educating the masses, mainly suñ mass yi. Advocate about introducing our local languages in the curriculum and allowing you go laka in the National Assembly caucus. Lolu Falkland gisuma, the importance cannot be overemphasized, to be honest. Because when you in Africa, and you said it, this foreign language, some of us struggle to speak and even to understand. Lolu is a problem in itself. So, my question is, do you already have the framework or the model in place? Mainly for hypothetically, president allow into policies that are again for kickstart at the same time. Do you have everything that is needed to kickstart this project?
Honorable?
Yes, we have. Well, as far as the particular policy is concerned, we have everything. In fact, we have to review the policy itself. And the policy is now going to cabinet, maybe any time now. But materials for the teaching of these languages from ECD to grade 3 have been developed, some are ready, and we are reviewing those that have been printed. And we started that work. Friday was the third day that we were reviewing them, but we'll continue from the 19th of this month to review those materials. There are 7 languages that are going to be taught in the schools. This is Wolof, Fula, Mandinka, Jola, Serer, Manjaku, Soninke. We are going to do all this in the schools throughout the country. It is not an easy task because its job is monumental. Because imagine you have to develop, even let's say ECD level alone, you have to develop materials in all these subject areas in all the 7 languages. And then not only that, some people would think that you just train teachers. No, because the teachers to be trained don't know how to read and write in this language, which means that you have to teach the teachers themselves first to know how to read and write in these languages, and then come and train them how to teach these languages. This is the monumental task that we are having in our hands, but we will do it because with commitment and consistency, we can do it. It has been done elsewhere. I don't see why it cannot be done in the Gambia too. Many works are necessary to be done because you take any of these languages, it has many dialects. Wolof, maybe you are lucky, we have very few dialects, but not as many as Fulfulde. Somebody was talking about Fulfulde. Fulfulde is the cover town, the African Academy of Languages in Bamako, of which I am a member, has chosen as a cover town for all the Fula dialects, Tukulor, Habobo, Firdu, and all the rest of it. Fula has many dialects, and it's one of the most widely spoken languages in Africa, because somebody was talking about West Africa. No, it goes beyond West Africa, because Central African Republic, you have Fula-speaking communities there. There are counted about 22 countries in Africa where Fula is spoken in one form or the other. And the same goes for Mandinka, which is also spoken in different dialects from here up, let's say almost throughout West Africa. And then Soninke also is Mauritania, Senegal, Mali, Burkina Faso, Guinea-Bissau, Guinea-Conakry, Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Gambia. So it's also a widely spoken language. So we have a wealth of languages that we can use to communicate. If we have no qualm to speak English, even Russian now, even Turkey, to communicate among ourselves, why do we have to have qualm to speak a language which is part and parcel of us? That's how I was saying. Any language in the Gambia is part and parcel because I was born into that language. Why do we have qualm to learn other languages in the Gambia other than the one that which is supposedly our natural language? This is the issue. And I think people are becoming increasingly conscious, and I'm happy to tell you that people are now developing skills to write these languages. I've edited a book in Fula, a novel in Fula written by somebody, in fact 2, and many other things. So I'm happy that the struggle I started in 1979 has now is bearing fruition now, and people are increasingly become committed to the use of their languages.
Brilliant. Mr. Jasan?
Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, is clear, and in fact, my follow-up question has been answered, because I was thinking, apart from Wolof that I know, all the other languages, especially Serer, Fula, they live in the same area, the same region, but you have 7 different dialects of Serer, and they don't understand each other. And Fula, you have about 3 or 4 different, they don't understand each other.
Okay.
So how do you intend to overcome this?
Well, okay. Among dialects where inter-intelligence or inter-comprehension is blood, it means that each of them is a language by itself. It means that that language, that since they are independent of each other, then it means that you have to teach them each as a language. But if you take Wolof, for example, even though there is a minor difference between Wolof spoken here in Bambia and Wolof spoken in Dhaka, one is marked by use of English, the other one marked by use of French, particularly the Senegalese one. And one of the big marks is that here your nouns always end with a vowel, like you say papa, but in Senegal they say pap, pap. Pap, there is a vowel at the but it's swallowed, like in French. I would say it's a French influence, because if they don't say papa, they say pap, sama pap, you know. So, but this does not deter communication between the two communities. The same goes within English. You have Australian English, you have New Zealand English, you have Canadian English, you have American English, and the writing systems, in fact, are different. Americans spell plow P-L-O-W. This one says P-L-O-U-H, you know. But it does not deter communication at all. In that case, it is beautiful. But where you say, and this is true, where dialects develop differently, and then they each develop their own characteristics, then intelligibility becomes broad among them. So in that case, if you have communities speaking these two different, it means that their children have to learn their language the way it is. But we have had, the Curriculum Development Center has had a language survey, language mapping in the Gambia, and they have indicated where each language is prevalently spoken. And it is interesting that in Fonyi, people may think that Dola is predominant. Yes, it is, but if you go to Mayork, the dominant language there spoken by people is Fula. You know, it's interesting. So in that case, if you are teaching children in that community, it is Fula you have to teach them, but not Dola, because they are not using that, both adults and children. But if you take Sarahule also, the only place we will teach Sarahule will be URR and one or two villages outside URR, that is in Jara East. Medina and this place is on the highway. That big village before we go to
Jahale.
Huh? No, in Jara East. Before you go to this Mandinka village after Soma. Anyway, there are only about 2 villages outside. All these Sarahules are concentrated in URR. Only 2 villages out. North Bank, there is no Sarahule village. But these are some of the problems that we are going to deal with in our review of the texts that they have developed so far.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Your question is very important and very highly technical.
Mr. Tusan, you're happy with his answer, right?
Indeed, very, very happy. It was a concern, you know. When people live in the same area and claim the same ethnicity.
Yeah.
And they don't be honest, Uncle Sidia has, you know. Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you very much. We'll now allow Mr. Bakari.
Good evening, Sister Ndeye. Again, just to clarify, Brother Chosan is called Ibrahim Anyas. He's a very renowned Gambian in the UK, but also a PDOIS sympathizer. He kind of embarked on a lot of cultural activities, particularly here in the UK. A big member of the Senegambia Cultural Weekend that we host every summer in the Gambia. So it's good to have Brother Ibrahim here, a well-respected community member. First, I just want to thank Uncle Sidia. To be fair to the others, I would have loved to speak in Fula, but hence we started, and the Fula side is Uncle. I will just speak in English to be fair to others. So So we thank Sidia for having him here. Sidia is your son Bakari Ba from Chamin Yanija. It's good to have you here. Ajarama Bajarama, Wananimi Welter Hebgol Marohande. So my question is in three folds, because I know these national languages, the issue we had with them, and for us to tackle them, we have to look at the adult literacy, and we have to look at our school curriculum, and we also have to look at our official languages that we use either in schools, offices, and also particularly the National Assembly, which you have spoken personally about. So if PDOIS was going to be in being tomorrow, do you develop a policy or a program where you'll be able to tackle these three different areas simultaneously, so that at least we could make headway in terms of the adult literacy programs, in terms of our school curriculum, and also officially what we speak in English, most likely also at the National Assembly where policies are made? Thank you.
Very good question. In fact, your question came...
Honorable?
Thank you very much for your question. In our review yesterday, your question exactly came on issue of whether the policy is just for formal education or even adult literacy. It came up, but it is for all. But there is another policy which is being developed by National Council for Arts and Culture. Supposedly that will be a policy which is going to cover all these areas, adult literacy and all those things. But I think in the end we will have to, because you cannot have two types of national policies on education in a country. We have to harmonize these two to become one national policy on education. But like you said, adult literacy is fundamental, because it will at least free people. And like we said, there should be a policy, and I'm happy to inform you that there is somebody in the National Assembly who is coming up with a private member's bill to speak national languages in Parliament. If that is enacted and passed, then they will be using freely national languages in the National Assembly, like they are doing in Senegal itself. But it is not going to be easy, because I know some people, Gambia here, people just oppose anything that they think they should, even without questioning whether or not I should oppose whether this is in the national interest or not in the national interest. Some people are still yet to come to grips with the fact that you don't just oppose everything that is brought to Parliament by the executive. You oppose what you think in your honest thinking that it is not in the national interest. You should oppose. But anything that's in the national interest should be supported wholeheartedly, because that's what the Parliament is out there for. And that's why when I became MP in 1997, I told them that anybody who comes with a party tag, leave it outside the Parliament chambers, because here we are discussing Gambia and not parties. And this should be reinforced. And it's a pity that people don't go to listen to their MPs in Parliament, because if you were doing that, things would not have been like they are now. We were there. When I was there, sometimes you feel as if people don't care about what is happening in the country, because your presence is in fact a pressure. Your mere presence is a pressure on MPs. But these policies are being considered, and they are all going to be developed for the implementation of language policy, national language policy in education and elsewhere. There is no doubt that there has to be a policy on each of these things. And that's why adult literacy should take off again, because before it was NGOs which are involved in it. When the government collapsed, government scheme collapsed, NGOs like Action Aid and others, that's West for worldwide evangelization crusades, were the ones who were, but even then now, I don't think there is any serious adult cases being contracted in the Gambia anymore. This is serious. But it will pick up. Once this policy is approved and we start implementing it, everything will change. I promise you that.
I expected, and I really just want to thank Sidia for all the work he's doing nationally and internationally to promote this very important aspect, not just for the Gambia or the sub-region, but in Africa, because we have to have our own national education program, policies. And it's about time we believe in ourselves and stop believing more in this foreign language that has been imposed on us and created unnecessary boundaries. Thank you, Sidia. I appreciate your answers.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brother Bakari. We would now take Bajan. Are you there, Bajan? Welcome.
Yeah, I'm here. Assalamu alaikum, Honorable. This is Aisha Seka again.
Okay.
Welcome, Aisha.
Welcome.
So Honorable, when you came to Ohio University in 2023 or 2024 academic year, we did talk a lot about education and using our African language, even to the Ghanaian community, that is the African Union community at Ohio University here. So after having that discussion with you and a lot of other discussions, I did write on a paper and in which you had your input, that is decolonizing Gambia's education through place-based education, a paradigm shift for cultural empowerment. And I could remember we even had that discussion before I went ahead with the presentation at the Africa in Ohio session. So I made an argument during my presentation on that day that it could be that the high rate of failures that we are witnessing on a daily basis during the WAS exam, that is the West African Examination Council exams, grade 12 exams, where about 20,000 or more will sit to the exams, and only 500 will be able or are the ones who will emerge kind of passing or have access to a university. And I made this argument that the teachers who are even teaching the curriculum of WAS do not have that adequate mastery of the English language that they are supposed to take the students with. Could that be hindering the education system from progressing as we expect? And I did say that could be the reason why our kids are failing, having this high rate of failures, because there are some concepts in mathematics that if you had explained them to me in my local language, I might be able to understand them better. It's difficult to explain it to me. So could my assumption or could my argument be right? And if so, do you think coming up with this paper and then trying to push a little bit further with the minister could actually help us? Because we really need something to work for our education system, because when our education system is wrong, then a lot of things might go wrong. And if it is right, then we might get a lot of things right as a country and a nation. That was my question. Abaraka, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, thank you very much for your question. You see, the big problem with our system is that children are not cognitively grounded to learn English. Let me put it this way analogically. If you want to put up a story building and you don't have a solid foundation for it to hold, well, you'll put up the building, it will go up, but eventually it will just collapse. Even with just a simple wind will blow it and it will collapse. It's precisely like our education system, because you see, as I said, language is rooted in culture. And that culture is the nourishment for the language. And if you don't understand that culture, it is very difficult for you to understand the language. And of course, most of the teachers have never been to England. They have never lived in the English culture. They know nothing about the English culture. Sometimes we even use words wrongly, culturally speaking. The way some people use certain words here, they are not used in English. The English people don't use those words anyway the way we use them. But we don't know culturally these have been superseded by certain things. And that's the problem. So that is why it was UNESCO made a declaration in 1952 that every child has a right to learn formally in the mother tongue first before being introduced to L2 rather. And because of that, 1952 the colonial government established 3 schools in the Gambia. All of them were teaching Mandinka as mother tongue. There was one in this one here near Pirang, the village near Pirang. There was one there, and there was one in Bakadaji. There was a 3rd one in Bajakunda, to which I went. And there we learned only in Mandinka for 2 good years without English. And that book, funny enough, was written by a Tuba called G. O'Halloran, Mandinka Talibo La Kitabo, which he wrote in collaboration with one Gambia, I think it's Mr. Bakar Sidibe. I was in that school for 2 years and then it collapsed. I went back to my village and I was looking after my father's cows for 2 good years without going to school. I want you to listen to this. I wish this was somebody else, then I would speak more fully about it, but I don't want to speak because people would think that I'm pounding my chest. But I left the school and went back to the village and was looking after cows for 2 solid years without going to school. At the end of the 2nd year, my father decided to send me to the regional school, regional capital, Basse, St. George's Primary School. I went to St. George's Primary School and they took me to standard 3. Imagine I left school 2 years, I was not in school. And I was not in standard 3, but they took me to standard 3 after not going to school for 2 years, and I was better than everybody in that class. This is the truth. And not only that, if they gave mathematics to those in standard 6, teacher would come and pick me up in my class standard 3 and I would go and do it for them. Because the reason for that is I was cognitively grounded. I had a correct foundation for my literacy, whereas the others didn't have it. So that's the same reason why English is always the casualty #1 in our examination from primary, from lower basic to upper basic to high school, even to university. Because children have not been grounded cognitively in learning English. And therefore, they have difficulty learning everything. That was one of the reasons why government, in fact, some few years ago, they started experimenting again to teach these languages. In fact, they saw that the learning English is very poor. The results are always very poor. They decided to use national languages, and wrongly they were using a wrong method in order to improve learning English. You know, you cannot build a house, the foundation and the walls at the same time. The foundation has to be solidly constructed first before the walls are built on top of it. But if you want to build the 2 at the same time, you are not making any headway, you will fail. And that's exactly what has happened here. So I say yes, it is true. There are teachers, in fact, you see the foundation is the primary school. And there are teachers at that level who don't speak English properly, who cannot write English properly. I've seen teachers when I was in the field myself who could hardly express themselves in English, and they are supposed to teach English for children. So that's one big reason. Yes, it's one of the reasons. There is no doubt that it is one of the reasons. Poor training and bad teaching methods, poor quality teaching of English are responsible for the failures in the English language examination and any other language for that matter. Yes. Your assertions, your assertions can hold water. Yes? Can you hear me?
And we hope to be back in Athens again.
Huh?
Yes, we hope to see you back in Athens again, inshallah.
I will try.
They're hoping to see you back in Athens, she said.
Yes, but please, I beg all of you to stop calling me honorable. I'm not honorable. My name is Sidia. I like my name. Call me by my name, Sidia. You say Uncle Sidia or Sidia, but don't call me. What is honorable? This is another deceptive one.
Well, there's still
Well, that would be difficult for us, you know.
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question?
Okay.
Huh? Let me ask you a question.
Sidia.
Okay.
Yes.
An employer and employee, who is more important?
Is that
Employer and employee, who is more important? Who pays who? I think employer pays the employee.
the employee?
Yes. So, but if the employee is more honorable than the employer, you think the work will be done?
The employer.
The employee.
The employer is more important.
Thank
The
you.
employer pays.
But the employer is calling his employee honorable.
Yeah.
You think the work will be done to his satisfaction? It's a trick.
No, it's the employee that will do the work.
It's a trick. This is a trick.
We will find another way. We will find another way or another way.
Call me Uncle Sidia or Sidia.
It is.
Okay,
Uncle Sidia, we will take you on that then.
Welcome.
Yes, Aisha, are you happy with the?
Yeah. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Aisha. We would now hand over to African. Are you there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes,
All
we
right.
can.
So, first of
Welcome.
all, I want to say thank you guys so much, and PDOIS as a whole. I mean, Uncle Sidia, he is my uncle, honestly, you know.
Thank you.
Because I used to remember the time I was a kid, you know, I used to sleep in his house in Sudukonding.
Okay.
And then maybe he might remember me, Uncle Sidia. My real name is Arafat Baro, and then Nyama Konoba is my mother, your sister. So, so yeah, it has been a while, you know. We haven't seen each other or talk.
Ages. That's ages. We have not.
Beautiful.
I don't even know your
Yeah.
whereabouts in the world. This thing is going up again. Hello.
That's right. You know, like
Yes. Go ahead, African.
Should I go ahead?
Yeah. Well, I'm
Yes,
listening.
go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So what I also. Okay. Yeah. So what I also just want to say, you know, like is that when it comes to the local languages, you know, that one is really very, very important, you know, especially in the Gambia. For instance, like the time I was back in the Gambia, like I believe I was at a primary school, you know, and then I used to watch TVs, for instance, you know, and most of the programs, especially from the national parliament, you know, like all of these parliamentarians, they will all speak English language, you know, and then majority of our people, they do not understand the English language.
It's going bad again. Somebody will have problem going back to Banjul. Hello? Network is very bad. Hello? Hello?
are representing those people. So it's really big research. So the problem is under the yeah. Okay.
Uncle Sidia.
Yes?
Uncle Sidia.
Yes, yes. Yes, I can hear you. Uh-huh. Yes? That's okay.
Okay, great. The import of local languages in parliament, because it is time for our country, the Gambia, to start using local languages in our parliament, because the people in the parliament, they are representing, the population. And majority of our people, whether you believe it or not, till today, they do not understand the English language. Because I could remember, for example, like at the time I was just going to primary school, and then under the programs of just like introducing the local languages, from Sidia Jatta, of course, they opened a local language school in my small village in Jakunda. Jakunda is in Woolly West. So in that school there, like a majority of the people who are going there to learn the local language in Mandinka are women, and mom, she started learning there just like her first 5 months, she could read and write. Then after 1 year, she was a teacher there in learning the local languages, and she was teaching other women. And to me personally, to my surprise, going to English schools, I just found out that my mom was, in fact, more clever than me. And then we used to laugh about it. And I said, how comes, because of why she was able to read and write in local languages, But because of this project, I don't know, who were exactly sponsoring it, but I know, it came all the way from the government sectors, So as time passed by, they just stopped the programs, and which was really very, very sad, So I think that, what Uncle Sidia was saying, that by, trying to develop a mechanism whereby, we can read in our local languages and also learn in our local languages at schools, but also the government officials as well, to start using the local languages as well, just like to communicate with the people. I think that one is very, very important, So the second point is that PDOIS, is a party which I believe that, can definitely change the Gambia, because I have always been following the things that PDOIS has been doing in the Gambia, and even the time of Yaya Jammeh, even though I was, young during that time, but I could still remember that by watching the TV, Sidia Jatta was one, plus Halifa Sallah as well, and few individuals who will stand up, when it comes to Gambia, for example, and challenge things by saying that, hey, these are not in the best interest of our people in the parliaments. But in the Gambia, it's all about the money. Wherever the money is, most of these parliamentarians, that is where they go. But at the end of the day, PDOIS was not a party, from the beginning up to now. So I think that I just want to say that kudos to PDOIS, whether it is Sidia Jatta, Halifa Sallah, and others, it has always been a party, standing up for the people and always there for the people. So I just want to say, Honorable Sidia Jatta, thank you.
Well, thank you. Can I say something? Hello? Hello? This network is going from bad to worse. Hello? Hello?
Thank you, Uncle Jesus.
Hello? Yes, I can hear you. Hello? 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 Hello?
It's Sidia.
Sidia?
Yes?
Something.
Put it down. We are hearing you, Uncle Sidia. Can you hear us?
Well,
Yes, go ahead. You wanted to say something.
yes, I was just going to say something to what the last speaker was saying. You see, one of the reasons why we started Nyakoi School
Yes, go ahead.
was to show that children can learn from age 3, depending on the method you use to teach them. And I think we have proven that because Nyakoi existed for a long time. Many people passed through Nyakoi. Some from Nyakoi school, instead of going to grade 1, they would take them up to grade 2 or grade 3, which indicated that what they learned, that they learned during their stay in Nyakoi was very solid. So much depends on, and it will be even better if children begin to learn in their own languages for the first 2-3 years. Everything becomes very simple and easy to learn. Anything, a child, even extracurricular activities, the child becomes even better. So I think we should all help to reinforce this idea of children learning in their languages to free them from the fetters of the difficulties that they are encountering in learning English first. If we don't do that, our education system will be producing children, but it will not be quality children in terms of education. I went to school in Ghana, and when I was in Ghana, that's years ago, many years ago, in those years, students were doing their O-level and A-level in Ghanaian languages, more than 30 years ago. So, and they do better. I think it is time we also did exactly that for our children to become proficient in what they are doing. Otherwise, we are just creating problems for our system and for our development. Our development will be fettered. One of the main reasons why Africa's development has been deterred is the fact that we have been using French, English, Portuguese, and not any of our national languages. Because the main population is left out of the theater of action. 80% of the population, or even 85 to 90% of the population, out of everything, there will be no effectiveness in development. Development cannot be taken to people. People must be conceivers and implementers of their development. And they can only do that if they are involved in everything that is designed to bring about development. But that is, we think here, Gambians think that you can have a development group somewhere, they design something, and then you go and that will never bring about development. People must decide what they want as development, and they must participate in its conception and implementation. If we don't do that, then we are not going anywhere. This is the problem here in the Gambia, and not only Gambia, but generally in many parts of Africa. That's what I wanted to say. Hello? Hello, hello. It's like dead. Remember, it's very dead.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you, Honorable.
Yes, well, I've just finished saying what I wanted to say. Only
Okay.
if you have more questions, but the network is very bad.
Uncle Sidia.
Yes.
Give us, if you can please give us half an hour, talking about,
Yes, okay. Go on.
I'm just saying, those that we are talking about this subject,
yes,
they are here. Yeah, they are here, and it was the reason why I called you and explained to you that, we were discussing about our national languages being introduced in our school system and that, which was Hiri Chosane Gambia, Bob is here, and me.
so that they will have the opportunity to engage you on this. So, Eri, Safian, just give us 1 minute, please. Yeah, you are part of the family. Eri, we will give you the opportunity to start the conversation, and then we move to Osborne.
Okay, Jobis. Jobis, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity and inviting the honorable uncle. Well, even though he doesn't want us to call him honorable, yeah, we do honor the service that he did for his employers. And for that, we took the honor and take it back to him. Uncle Sidia, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you very much for coming here and honoring this invitation to discuss about the introduction of local languages and the impact that might have not only on the development, and the realization of the African dream, the Pan-Africanism that we speak of, and the total development of our people, but it's also necessary for translation of knowledge. And for some of us having the opportunity to go to school in the Gambia, from Basse all the way to Combo, and then come to the United States and have the opportunity to go to college and university here, we understand the importance of the art of language and the understanding of language of instruction for effective learning to take place. And sometimes I go back and I ask some of my teachers or colleagues to explain to me what osmosis is. What actually is acidity in our own languages if you have to explain that to somebody else. So I know I was exposed to a lot of efforts that are taking place to help with this, with the introduction of the local languages. And one of those that stood out was the efforts of the Nko, Falong Karanta Ba. And, I was able to look at some of their, alphabets and what they are doing. And some of the arguments that they made is that
It's gone.
Ndella kafo nyameng pruka fahamu ka safe anyanta safe la
Nyameng.
ni ko ba safe me alon ko las walkendi ite dum boli me alo safe sum londo nyombe no promoli afahamu ya mira wala kada ko te me ala nyanda ka so wala kendi jama bi je be karambu lokan ka mol kana man ka kawdo ya kada ko ke je ka buko sa fe wolto ani dol ba alquran fon taala ba try kam pour ka translate man ka kaw sa ngaje ko ita dum keta moli te me alo nin sa fono bi ita mo woli yoldi nin kada ko kono gambia banko kan ko mi fon ya sa de nyama no ngal political will o kera ko me cosa ko ba intervene ba sa fo bra tembo sai fo jigo so do ko karan sabe su trende be dunka be dinno krande kanje ida aje nyaadi le ilme wala suto mbadi me la ma non do aje fo da ambol fa ale kam foto maybe fo kana tinalo na fo esta ne ko jama ko kenyalo fo sa kawal fa ani ko londol fondo na mol ma ja kada kuti me ko ay ko amira o mo baro ma ko ba ke ba ko sa din ka kanya kawal be fon na mol kan kawal fa am fa bla sando le to ba fa bla kando le to ba fo ya kendi a telephone la ni melbe poldi ko na yeba dan je ba mo impact le so taw so wolo dan ni garol de wolo ro ni ka dara fo nyaado dalo be malla la ka barka ba gani bi
But there are misconceptions about Nko because I've been dealing with them since 1980s, early 80s, when I used to live in Dipakunda. I was working at the Curriculum Development Center, and there were people there who were learning Nko. But eventually, I came to grips with Nko when I went to France. And I discovered the writing system, which was invented by one Guinean, Suleiman Kante, in 1949. But what people must understand is that Nko is one of the latest writing systems developed in Africa. There were older ones. There are older ones. Because Vai, which is also Mandinka, Vai was developed in 1820 in Liberia, and some others also in Liberia. There are over 30 different writing systems developed in Africa, starting from 4th century BCE. That's a long time ago. But the interesting thing is, Nko, you mentioned, was invented in Guinea, but up to this day, Nko is not in the official education system in Guinea. There are adults who are learning it, who are using it, like Nko, like Vai in Liberia in 1820. And there are even much older ones, because I said that writing in fact started in Africa and not anywhere else, Nubia. But that has not made it possible for Africans to be using a writing system which is specific to Africa. Now, people talk about the Latin alphabet, the Roman alphabet, some call it Latin alphabet. It's neither Roman nor Latin. It's just a nomenclature. Like if the whole humanity worked on something and one aspect of humanity decided to do a summation of that enterprise and then gave it their own name. But the Roman alphabet is not created by Romans, nor was it created by Europe uniquely. The Roman alphabet is an alphabet for the world. Everybody had made particularly Africa, we have made a contribution to the development of the Roman alphabet. But putting that aside, we are silent about something, government is silent about something which is going to create problems. They are already creating, but they'll create problems in the future. Yes, Nko is an African writing system. There are many others older than it, over 30 of them. Even Senegal here, which is in 1990 something, the Senegalese developed a writing system. But the question we should ask ourselves is, we have now two competing writing systems which are considered to be African, Adlam for Fula and Nko for Mandinka. If because both of them cannot be used at the same time if you want to have something national. So which one are we going to adopt? Nko has it, Fula has it, Adlam, and Soninke also have it because somebody has developed a writing system they call Nti. There is a Nti writing system in Soninke also, Sarahole. And and there is one in Jola also. So you have all this in almost every language has its own writing system. And we are talking about a Gambian nation with a Gambian national education system. How are we going to deal with this, with all this in competition? That's one fundamental question. Already we are very late. We are trying to catch up. And if we decide now, for example, even if they agree that we adopt only one of them, we agree to adopt Nko, for example, or Adlam, it means that we are going to go back many years because the whole writing system in the country will change. Everybody in the country will have to begin to learn the new system, and it means everybody will have to be reschooled. Do we have time for that? What interest what does that give us? Africa itself has developed a common writing system for all the African languages. And this is the writing system we took in 1980 in London to develop it further and refine it, make it up to transfer all the languages, including Arabic. That system is there. It is common to Africa. Now you want to put that aside and bring something totally new, and then with all the efforts we are making to catch up with development, and we are still, after 60 years of independence, it's like we are still tottering with development. It's like we have gone nowhere. It's like we are just beginning to develop. And then people are talking about Nko, and Suleiman Kante did not, of course it is a writing system, and that is why they can use it to write Arabic, to translate the Quran into Mandinka. So it is not a writing system for Mandinka alone. It just happened that a Mandinka speaking person invented it and called it Nko. Just like Adlam, two Fula brothers, two Barris developed Adlam system. There are currently 9 Nko schools, and the 9th one is in Tabokoto, which is named after me. And that gave impression to people that I'm also involved with Nko. No, I am not. They invite me because of my interest in writing African languages and my specialty, because that's my special area of training. I'm a linguist. People invite me to talk about things like that, but I'm not part of those who are using Nko. I know it, and I can use it, because I knew it long time ago. But let me give one information. When I was in the ECOWAS Parliament, somebody brought that as a theme to be discussed in Parliament, the issue of Nko writing system. I think I was the only person who commented about it. Nobody spoke about it at all. And I told the speaker, I said, how do you speak Hausa with somebody from Niger and somebody from Cameroon? Why is it that we cannot start using one of these languages or some of these languages in ECOWAS? Because you are communicating, all of you can communicate in this language. It is common language which are common to all the countries in Africa. Why can't we use them? And the same question as in Pan-African Parliament in South Africa. Swahili is the 6th language of communication, official language of communication in Parliament in South Africa. There are Swahili speakers from Kenya, Swahili speakers from Uganda, Swahili speakers from Tanzania, but none of them use it. None of them uses it as a language of communication. Really. Even the speaker at the time, the first speaker of Pan-African Parliament was a South African, Dr. Mungela. She speaks Swahili fluently. But she never addresses Parliament in Swahili, even though it is one of the, there were translators for it. She could have spoken, she could have been speaking in Swahili and then translated into English, Portuguese, and French and all the rest. But that was not happening. She was speaking directly in English. So you see the problem. So there are a lot of things to be addressed here in Africa, continentally, for us to make a headway with what we want to do in this continent. I was invited to a book launch where Adlam and Nko were key things. But I refused to talk about them because I said that was not the place appropriate for me to talk about them. And I'm still not comfortable talking about them because I want the proponents to be present for me to talk, to say what I want to say about them. And that day will come. It hasn't come yet, but it will come. But I think government should stop being silent about this, because we have a national education system. Children are learning a system which will not continue. They will go up to the end of what they can offer, and then where will the children learn again? Where will they go to learn? We are talking about harmonizing writing system, harmonizing languages in Africa. I'm a member of the Academy of Languages in Bamako. And in our commission, which is the Manding Commission, we try to speak only in Manding. Those who speak Gula speak Gula, those who speak Bamana speak Bamana, those who speak Mandinka speak Mandinka, those who speak Mandinka of Gambia, Senegal, and Casamance speak Mandinka. But there are technical problems, but we are making headway. We are into that. And therefore, we have a unified writing system for this language. Eventually, we'll do something much more than that. So these are the things that we are already going headway into that. So if anybody wants to draw us back, it means that we are making development in the continent very terrible. So I will stop here for the time being. Yes, Nko is here. They have 9 schools. In fact, the 4th school was built in Wuli West, Barokunda. I was invited to the opening. And there was something else there some time ago. I was invited there, I spoke there. But there is something wrong somewhere. And we'll have to address this someday. The government should do something about what is happening. Yes, that's what I have to say.
Yeah, I think that was a pretty detailed answer, and but okay.
Is it coming? Yes. It takes long.
I'm not sure if he can hear us. Are you there, sir?
Yes, I am. Did you hear what I was saying?
Okay. Yeah, the second part of the question, I don't know if you heard that.
Remind me, what's the second part?
Does our ability to speak and communicate in our local languages, does it give a hedge away for the incumbent currently who clearly communicates effectively in our local languages? And does it make it harder for you and Halifa, who have been trying to liberate the Gambian people? Does it make it difficult because of the language barrier?
No. Halifa and myself, we don't have any problem. I think we do it better than anybody in this country. Because, well, he speaks language, but you know, if you ask him to talk technically about anything, he will be improvised. Ask him to talk about economy. Ask him to talk about the constitution and see what he's going to do. You'll be surprised. He's fluent because when he does not talk about those technical issues. But if you ask Halifa to talk about the constitution, you can talk about it without using English words. Talk about economy, you can do it for 5 hours without using English words. I don't think there is any politician in this country who speaks these languages more adequately and more effectively and more efficiently than Halifa and myself. I can say that proudly. And I can throw a challenge to any politician in Zambia. Let's talk about technical things. For example, in the National Assembly, we talk about the Constitution, we talk about conventions, we talk about agreement, international agreement. Those are technical things. Ask them to talk about it. May I inform you that I was commissioned by UNESCO about in 2001 to translate 11 chapters of 1997 Constitution into Wolof, Mandinka, and Fula. And it's available with them, the National Council for Civic Education. That was 2001. So, no, I don't think so. I think if you ask himself, he say, hey, I cannot speak like them. I promise you. Some others, yes. Some other ones, yes. Some other people, yes. He speaks better. But take him into the technicalities, he also will lose his fluency.
Thank you, Uncle Sidia. Boss, let's give you the opportunity to contribute. Boss, are you here with us?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you, Musa. It's been a long day for me, so I was already in bed, but hearing Uncle Sidia on the platform talking about language and education, it's really refreshing. Uncle Sidia, Nunala.
Yeah,
Right, so I think you might have touched on most of the points that I would like to talk about. Pedagogy was my focus when I was doing my undergrad studies on the language used in our education systems in the Gambia.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you are cognition of the publication made by Dr. Omar Bari. There was a book called Brief Education or Brief History of Education in the Gambia.
Okay.
And I always like to start from there because it reveals a very deep and troubling system in our education. It started by introducing the system of education from the Arab trade to the coming of the missionary schools, Hannah Kalam and others in the late 1800s to the early 1900s. And education at that time, we can all agree that the purpose of educating Gambian was for proselytization, be it the Islamic version or the Christian version. So there was no critical pedagogy in our education. We were simply being taught to accept religion and to accept religious value without any critical thinking behind it. And what was more surprising for me was during the colonial administration, some educational inspectors were sent to Gambia. And I was reading the report that was done by Baldwin in 1950. And when Baldwin came to inspect education in Gambia and how we are faring it, he recommended that basic education from the elementary level should be done in the vernacular language. And surprisingly, these were never implemented. We're talking about the that was made earlier about adopting a unified system of alphabetization. In Dr. Barry's book, he did mention, or he did argue about the story of two Gambians named Muhammadan and Sunday, one a Mandinka, one a Wolof, that were sent to the UK by Hannah Kalam and the group to translate the Bible or the Christian text into the local languages for the purpose that they will be able to come back and communicate with their people and be able to turn them or to proselytize, carry on the message of proselytization. So there was a possibility, even at that time, at that initial time, that text can be transformed into the local vernacular language. Now, I've read some of the arguments that were proffered by the Sorry, I've read some of the arguments that were proffered by Right, I do apologize for that. I have calls coming in. Right. So So the Jawara administration did agree that it was very expensive at that time, and there were little availability of materials to transform education into the local languages. And they've decided to develop or adopt the 3 R's that were introduced by the colonial administration, which is the reading, writing, and the arithmetics. We call them the 3 R's. And as a researcher, I came across a writer called Pablo Ferrero. And Pablo Ferrero wrote a book called The Pedagogy of the Oppressed. And this book was a revolutionary book in the East African region and also in Latin America. So in this book, it did argue that as humans, the basic foundation of education is to enhance students the ability to critically engage with materials. And he argued verbatimly against the banking system of education. And I think that came out from him, which is called the banking model. In that he argues the banking concept of education regarded man as adaptable, manageable beings. The more students work at storing the deposit entrusted to them, the least they develop the critical consciousness which results from the interventions in the world as transformers of the world. So he went on to argue that doing pedagogy in a language that is not the empty language, which is the mother tongue, creates a banking system of education, where this is what Jacques Rancière, the famous French philosopher, did argue in his book, The Ignorant Schoolmaster, that the teacher serves as the instructor, that is the embodiment of knowledge. And his role in the classroom becomes an impactful role of transmitting knowledge to the students. And in the African context, the students would go into the memorization process, where the teacher comes, like we've seen in our schools. This is a mango, this is a boy, this is a girl, and students would sing those phrases for the rest of the day in order to memorize those phrases. So there is no critical thinking in it, and that's the banking system of education, where the teacher just transmits the knowledge that he gained to the student without student having to go through the interrogation process. So these are problems that I think we need to address as a nation. And I do actually support the idea of bringing in pedagogy, because we think in our own language. When I was doing my philosophical degree, sometimes I would be in lectures and the debates get so heated, I start using wall of language. And everyone would be like, what is he talking about? I'm like, I can only express it in the language that I can express it, because this is my primary default language of thinking when I am presented with complex problems and complex situations. So thank you, Honorable Uncle Sidia, for bringing out these debates. We had a very extensive debate on this the other time, online, with Musa and others. And Musa reached out to say that I want to invite Honorable Sidia, and I want us to further expand this, because he has done some extensive work on this. And I think I am really happy that we have you in our midst, that you've done some important work, and I hope I will be able to lay my hands on some of the things that you have done in terms of research, in terms of publication, to further enhance my knowledge on this. Thank you.
Boss, I would like you to highlight on the one of the points that you made when the question was asked as to the choice of language, whether we should choose only one local language to be official. But from what I heard today, it looks like it's going to be multiple languages, and you had given a formula as to how to choose one language or multiple languages. How does that affect the ability to implement this for proper translation of knowledge? Would you want to engage on that?
Okay. Probably before Uncle Sidia came in, we were presented with the question of the multiple ethnicities in Gambia, and looking at the ratio in which these ethnicities are split within our country. So what language would be the default language of education? And in my own little thinking, I think to develop an educational curriculum or a language of instruction largely depends on the available materials and how advanced these developments have been. And I argue that in every country, there is something called the lingua. Now, and I use the analogy that in grade 7, we were taught basically the concept of a set and a subset and where they intersect. And I'm like, in Gambia, we have the Mandinka, we have the Fulas, we have the Cholas, we have the Wolofs, we have other tribes. Now, where do these tribes intersect when they move in age, either in trade, in business, or in their daily life? Now, I thought probably enhancing that lingua franco would have settled one, the problem of what would be the different language, not demeaning any languages that have been I wasn't developed like working on a universalized system of alphabetization and then basic phonics and pronunciation. I understand that Senegal has gone really advanced in terms of developing the wall of alphabetization and all those things. So this is an Africa, to me, it is beyond Gambia. It's more about the regional integration. Now, in our sub-region, between Gambia, Senegal, Mauritania, and all those countries, let's look at the language that is widely spoken by almost everyone or widely understood by almost everyone. And that would be our lingua franca. And if we start from there, then it becomes very easy to the languages.
Can I say something?
Yes. Go ahead.
Yes, he's dealing with a very important question, but very sensitive and very technical. You see, it is not prudent and it doesn't happen, in fact, that way. For anybody to choose a language to be an official language, it never works. You see, the cases we have, for example, let's begin in Africa. Ethiopia, for example, which was never colonized by any country. Amharic happens to be official, and there are reasons for this. Language is never imposed on people. Language imposes itself on people, and there are factors which help it to do so. Amharic has been associated with the ruling class in Ethiopia for centuries. All the Meneliks, all the kings in Amharic in Ethiopia are Amharas. Menelik 1, 2, all of them were Amharas. And then in addition, Amharic was the language of the Coptic Church. So there were two forces behind it, the political force and the religious force, and then eventually the economic force, because it became the language of communication widely in the society by virtue of its officialdom and it being connected with religion and politics. If you take the situation now is no longer the same as it was in Ethiopia, because demographically, Amharas are not necessarily the more populated people in Ethiopia. The Oromos are probably more than the Amharas, and Tigrinyas also are probably more than the Amharas. Now, these two groups have now their own television station, and they are teaching their people their own Oromo and Tigrinya. The government cannot stop it, and they are not even making any effort to stop that because they cannot. They will be committing suicide to do that. So these two languages are now developing, in fact, many years now. India, for example, in 1948, under Nehru, they put it in their constitution that Hindi was going to be the national language of India, but it didn't, because that nearly brought about a national crisis. The Gujaratis in India, Gujarati people, are more demographically more than the Hindi speakers. And there are other languages there too, which are big. So maybe yes, this political, sociological, and economic forces promote a language to become the lingua. Somebody is talking about a lingua franca. That's the Senegalese situation. Nobody chose Wolof to be what it is in Senegal. It imposes itself on people. Government has never decided that Wolof should be the widely spoken language. No, Wolof imposes itself on people, and it is gradually beginning to do that in the urban areas in the Gambia, in Banjul and Greater Banjul area. My daughters, when they meet, they speak Wolof to each other. Nobody forces them to, but that's how they see themselves doing it. They speak Wolof just naturally, as natural to them as Wolof speakers, Wolof is natural. So language has factors that help it to become a national language, a widely spoken language. No law can make a language national. In fact, if you make a law to make a language national, you are calling for a national crisis. Particularly in our day now, because there is now a new linguistic nationalism which is going across the world. What had happened in history will not happen anymore. The emergence of official languages killed many languages in France and in England. English is just one language in England, not these many. The last language which was spoken in England died about 10 years ago. Only one woman was there who was speaking it. When she passed away, the language also passed away, which indicated that there were many languages in England, but this officialdom has killed many of them. Now there is a political force behind English, there is an economic force in it, and then there is a sociological force behind it. Not only in England, but America, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, and all those countries. So here in our situation, don't worry. Languages will emerge without anybody forcing anybody to make them become lingua franca. All that we need to do now, by force, is we must teach them, because that is only the way to help our children to learn better. Every child has a right to begin formal education in L1. Now I call L1 not mother tongue because why? If you go to Kampama, if you go to, how is it called, Tobacco Road, most of the inhabitants, they are Mandinka speaking people. But while I was teaching in Kampama school, the Mandinka children coming from Kampama spoke Wolof, not Mandinka. If anybody wants to doubt that, go there and test it yourself. You'll have the empirical evidence. So let us be very careful about it. Let's not bother ourselves about which language we are going to choose. No, let's just teach them. That's what, because all the children are entitled to begin their formal education in their language in order to be grounded cognitively, to become more apt in learning other things with ease. That's the formula. The other things, leave it to languages themselves. There is struggle. You talk about class struggle. There is struggle among languages too. The languages have all these factors behind it, eventually win the competition. I don't know whether I have made myself clear here.
No, you made it very clear. Also, are you satisfied with that?
Yes, indeed. Thank you. I think Uncle Sidia even offer a more grounded argument than my previous analog, the one that I used. Thank you, Uncle Sidia. Not to hold on to the panel, other people want to ask questions, but this is definition and refreshing here. And I hope that, eventually we would have the L1 as our language of instruction in our elementary schools. And I also use this analogy when I speak to people about language. Education to me, it's a foundation. And once you understand in which languages flow, it becomes very easy to learn what I learn. I've had a friend in high school that went to Russia to do their undergraduate studies. For the first year, they've learned the Russian language, and the subsequent 3 years, they were able to complete their bachelor's degree in a Russian language taught or Tagal Military Institution, where Russian was the primary language of instructions. And I was like, what takes you 4 years to master a language that prior to you going to Russia would not even be able to pronounce one alphabet or be able to create a sentence in the Russian language? And here you are, a graduate in a language that is completely alien to your own mother tongue. So this should definitely give us the understanding that having that primary foundation in education using the our language will only help harness our critical thinking skills and help develop our brains in terms of critical thinking and engagement with the materials that are being taught. And thank you. And I wish Uncle Sidia,
yes,
if you lay your hands on Rancier's book, it's called The Ignorant Schoolmaster, then 5 lessons and all those things, and translate that into the local language. I think it will definitely transfer the way.
Honorable, I think we've lost him. He shows on tours, so hopefully he'll be back soon. I thought I'd just notify him so you know that he's not aware of your question. So you can just hang on a minute.
He probably got a call or something.
Yeah, looks like.
But also, it looks like the plan. I don't know if you understood it that way. That they were gonna choose these number of languages he mentioned, and they would look at the different ways. Their ability, or if they would be allowed to, learn all the multiple languages. With regards to the implementation of the current system that they want to put in place.
I think it's completely doable because I can remember defending my thesis, and this was one of the questions that were asked. That Mr. Bob, if Gambia speaks 18 languages, but there are multiple ethnic groups which read a language, then what would be your recommendation as to what they are one? And I did mention that we can regionalize it. So people that come from a certain region where language is a dominant, they can use that language as their mode of instruction. So I'm completely in line with what Uncle Sidia stated there.
Thank you, Os. I think we will just take questions, and hopefully we will come back here and talk about this topic more. It's a bit late now in the Gambia. It's 11 o'clock there. So, activists, do you have a question?
I have a question, if you don't mind. If he is not.
Yeah. Let's allow activists and then talk to you, alpacas, and then Great Tinker. Then.
Basidia baraka bake nye kondo.
okay. Safian, Drame.
Safian Drame.
Yes,
Yeah.
Safian, Drame.
Abaraka bake. Ale kumakon mel de fo jang. Dol mel ya lon ko na lon le man jang ka ka ni karamu dal ti bake. De lafte nyini kala dal na woro mun di ale ni do ko ken mo men ke pour ko banko du karandi bawon la kola ali age. Kami jawara wato yatra el bari politician Gambia nol kando ko dila Ali Gambian students neglect it because we don't want an aware citizens. Jammeh neglect it because we don't want citizens to be aware. And this government is fooded in this moment. That's what is the question in the name. Thank you.
Thank you, Safio. Demba.
So, don't you think Uncle Sidia is sleeping?
No, he's not sleeping. Sleeping, I'm very well awake.
Because initially I heard him saying that they've been there since in the morning. I think that was what I had said in the beginning.
Yes, that's true, but I'm not sleeping, I'm awake.
How can he be sleeping?
He would. I think it's just a connection.
I'm very awake.
I think he's trying to say something. I heard him talking. It's just not clear.
Yes, but the network is bad. That's why.
But the volume is not.
Maybe you can advise them to exit.
Yeah,
maybe you can advise them to exit and come back. Send a request to come back.
We just heard him talk now. He's very clear now. He said it was the network.
I can hear you very clearly, but I'm not sleeping, you know. I can be talking here until tomorrow. I'll not sleep.
Okay, sorry, sir. Yeah, because we just, being a bit, sympathetic that you guys are always busy and on the run.
No, yeah.
Very busy. So anyway, Alcapasa. Where's Alcapasa? I think he wanted to ask a question.
No, Harald. Yeah, carry on, Uncle Sidia.
No, I didn't get what that Safian was saying, but let me say something. You see, one of the reasons why we established Nyakoi was one, the nursery schools that existed at the time were very expensive for most people. And they are still very expensive for most people. So we decided to close Nyakoi school to make it reasonable for anybody to bring his children there. And eventually, even ministers were bringing their children there, even though it was very cheap. But what was offered there was superior to many other places. But one of the reasons why it came to an end is that the Jammeh administration said that it was in a home, but we rented a whole house in a particular compound. We said nursery schools should not be in a compound. But there are nursery schools still in compounds in this country, in this place here, conglomeration. But ours was stopped. That was how brought Nyakoi school to an end. Otherwise, we would have been continuing to have it. We were given land in Kololi, we fenced it before we could develop it. They took it and re-enter it. So that's the other issue. But the basic reason is to make nursery education accessible to the most people in this area here.
Thank you, Uncle Sidia. Any other question?
That's my point. My question is not being answered. That's my point. How are we sure that this project will effectively be implemented? Because this government wants to pretend people's ignorance for them to continue their political stealing because people are not aware what they are doing. Introducing this project will make people aware of what they are doing.
Yes, because there is a committee which is established for that purpose. It will ensure that the project goes on, the materials that are being used in the system are up to date, and so on. Teachers are properly trained, materials are there which are of quality, and which are in tune with the objective of the policy. Yes, it will. You see, sometimes people themselves fail in their responsibilities. Because ordinary citizens you have a right to go to a school and ask questions about how it is functioning. Any public school, you can go to any public school and raise questions about what's been done, but you should know what's happening there before you can ask questions about it. So it means that people should become so responsible as to be interested in everything that's going on in their own name and interest. So that when it is going wrong, you know what to do, where to go and what to do. But people are not interested in what is being done for them. They only hear, this is done for you, that's it. You should take interest in what is being done for you and in your name. And it is your responsibility to make sure that that's being done in the way you want to do it. You want it. I think this is the issue. People forget that they have authority. That's why I was asking, employer and employee, who is more important? But employers make themselves less important than their employees become honorable. They themselves are dishonorable. They will never be served. I think we need a lot of attitudinal changes and perception of certain things in our life here. Things must change. I don't know whether I have answered your question now, Safi.
Thank you, Uncle. Yes, Thank you. Thank you, Uncle Sidia. Over to you, Ndai. Uncle Sidia can wrap up if there is no other question, and then we will come back next week with another guest.
Yeah, I guess, we'll just allow him to, because now we've held him for a while. Uncle Sidia, we would just allow you to say your last words. You know.
Well, thank you very much for coming out with this program, because for me this is very important. I say it is the most important program that you have ever had and you may ever have on this medium. But the crucial issue is that it is now our responsibility, all of us together, must now be struggling and fighting to make sure that our languages take their rightful place in our education system. Not only in the formal education system, but in even the informal education system. Everybody must begin to develop interest to learn his or her, or any language you want to learn in this country. This is the only way that we can bring about change. We cannot sit down and fold our hands and say government is going to do it. No. You know the history of English language in England? It is the common people who brought English. You know that the language, we should know a lot of things, you know. French was the language of all the courts in Europe, including Russia. French language was the language of administration in all this, even including England. In our parliament, the records, if you go to their history, they are in French. But the common people in England came together and said, no, we cannot have this, we must have our language. And that's what brought back English. So here, since we claim that we are so-called independent, but our independence will never be meaningful unless and until we liberate ourselves linguistically. And this mental decolonization must end. And if it does not end, let us not hope for any development in this country. 60 years and nowhere, we are going backward, not forward. Something is fundamentally wrong. We know what is wrong and let us correct it collectively. It is our responsibility. We cannot sit down. What has happened historically is going to be reversed. The Tuareg came here and suppressed our languages. But now, they have no raw material in their languages. They have learned our languages. They have become very, 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 very apt in using them. They will come back again and teach you the language they stole for you, suppressed, and they'll teach you, they'll give it back to you. I think we should not allow that. I, for one, I will not accept it. I'll have to teach whoever comes here. No one will be qualified to teach me in this country. Our languages, any of the languages here. But that is what is in process. Go to anywhere in Europe. Our languages occupy a very important place in their curriculum, in the universities. You go to School of African Studies, not only our language, but even our music. Kora music, there are people who go to London School of Oriental African to study Kora. That was since years ago, decades ago. In 1976, I brought a student here who was studying under Tony. Tony who was teaching Hausa and Mandinka music there. Now, since then, he left to be teaching Nigeria. But Mandinka music is still being taught there. So isn't it funny? And you know what the Tuabs have now done? They have created a new kora which is even better than the kora that we have been having. Any ordinary person can tune the kora using the keys like guitar. It is they who invented that. So we have a lot to do. Huh? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable again. Sorry. Thank you very much, Uncle Sidia. It is always a great time to have you here because it's always informative, educative, and people get to.
You are welcome.
Be informed very well and learn something new all the time. So we take your time, and yes, we hope to have you again soon. And thank you very much to everyone who's joined us today, and for everyone that's watching as well. We wish you all a very good night. Brother Musa, is there anything else you want to add to that?
No, for me, okay.
Job,
Yeah.
Job is.
Yeah, we can call it like
Thank you very much, sir. I will following, but unfortunately, couldn't ask a question because the move.
Thank you. Sorry.
No. It's okay. Out of the house. The thing is, I was on the move. Then I was still playing because this particular topic we had a subject. I'm not too sure. My concern was always about language. So that was going to be an issue, and it made something very important. People moving from region to region with language, and if one is studied in one region, and that child able to move to another region, according to our education, with a change of language, that could be some kind of situation. So this was something that I was always getting my arguments on that it would be very hard or difficult in the Gambia. So, but anyway, I had a great discussion on this also for a lot of preparation and history as well. So I guess we'll have another session.
Uncle Sidia, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
I think we'll come back and then continue to us.
Just exactly once again, to educate everyone.
Yes, so we'll allow Uncle Sidia to take his question because he's still here. So let's we allow.
Honorable, good evening.
Yeah.
Good evening.
I don't know where.
Good evening. I can hear you.
Uncle Sidia, can you hear?
Yes, I can hear you. Hello.
Yes, I am one of the members of PDOIS. Another member. Yes, I'm one of the members of PDOIS.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Like I said, I'm one of the members of PDOIS.
Okay.
Yeah, hello, I think
it's not.
I can hear you. Go on, speak.
So you also have from the people who receive, then after
okay, what I was saying is, yes, my question was, yes, thank you. My question was asked by Hillary And I think you delved into answering the question to some extent, because I was kind of always muddled up with when it comes to implementation of such or adoption of such a system, or to bring this language, local language, or local dialects to be adopted as an L1 language. So I was always saying, what would happen if a child is being lectured in a region, maybe in the CRR area, with a particular language, if they are going to adopt different local dialects, and that child happened to come over to the urban area, and will also have his or her education, where a different local dialect is taught in schools. That would not bring some kind of conflict situation upon that child, to be able to further and learn what language, learn this course of in different language, which it was never got to the background.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I've heard you, but your intervention was going on and off. It's not very clear, but let me try.
Let's leave that question and then we'll come back another time and deal with it.
The network is very poor now. What you are saying is being interrupted.
Yeah, another time and then deal with it.
Hello.
Yeah, thank you very much, Uncle Sidia. We would have to reach out, maybe then I think I will have the opportunity to get his question answered.
Okay.
So thank you very much.
All right.
Come in.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And we look forward to having you on the next one.
Okay.
Thank you, Ted.
Hello.